All right. Hi there, Harper fam. Today we are back with some guests from Counseling Services and the Hawks Care Resource Center to talk about stress and anxiety around finals and the holiday seasons. While we know that finals can induce feelings of stress and anxiety for some students, we also know that the holiday season, particularly during COVID, because it's a different year, can cause some stress and anxiety for individuals as well.
In addition, according to the National College Health Assessment, 37% of Harper students reported stress as one of their top impediments to learning. 26.2% of students reported anxiety as an impediment to learning, and 22.3% of students said that sleep difficulties affected their learning. So if there are any Harper students out there, do know that you are not alone in your feelings, and that does not mean that you have to face the world alone.
Yes, which is why we've invited Cindy Washburn and DuBoi from Counseling Services and the Hawks Care Resource Center to talk about some quick tips and information as it relates to these topics. So first off, can the two of you introduce yourselves a little bit more and briefly describe your role at Harper? And DuBoi, if you want to go ahead and kick us off first, followed by Cindy.
Hello, everybody. I'm DuBoi McCarty. I'm a counselor at Harper College, and I also teach a few classes at Harper. So my role is a little varying in what I may be doing in a particular day. So as a counselor, I work with students on educational, personal, and career counsel concerns. And I teach a few classes, diversity class, humanistic psychology, first year seminar class. I taught those as well. And I work with clubs as well on campus. Particularly, I work with the Black Student Union. So I have different touches with students throughout their college experience. So good times.
And I like to call that the Roomba experience, DuBoi, like your faculty, your student groups. You just got to permeate, which is great.
Roomba.
And Cindy, if you want to go ahead and add anything.
Yeah, I'm Cindy Washburn. I'm the manager of our Counseling Services Operation and Hawks Care Resource Center at Harper. I don't have quite the same Roomba experience going as DuBoi, but actually I started at Harper as an academic advisor. So, I have the fortunate history of understanding a little bit of that, but similar to DuBoi, the rest of our counseling faculty at Counseling Services and Hawks Care have really robust experience across campus as far as being faculty. Some of them are also club advisors. So just maybe a nice shout out and recognition for our counseling faculty, because students sometimes think like, oh, I don't know if they're going to get me. Our counselors are really well versed in Harper student experience. So thanks for having us.
Thank you both for joining us, and absolutely shout out to the counseling faculty. They are fantastic. I know I shared a little bit of data about our students, but in your roles, can you talk a little bit about common stressors you hear from students around finals, but also the holiday season? DuBoi, if you'd like to kick us off.
Sure. I guess around finals, of course, students are really, really concerned about grades, wanting to know how they're doing in classes. Sometimes students have fallen behind and they're kind of nervous to connect with their instructors about where they are. So sometimes they hesitate on having that conversation with the instructor because they're not sure what to say or how they're going to be received. I always encourage students, the sooner the better as far as initiating that conversation. The more time you let pass, the more difficult it's going to be to have options available to do anything. So that's one major stress. How am I performing? How am I going to get the grade that I want? And students, even in my classes, they'll say, how can I get an A in this class? And like, you can't wait till the end of the semester and say, how can I get an A in this course? So you have to stay on track with what you're doing. And I think sometimes the stress that they're feeling is the weight of what they're dealing with. And trying to get the outcomes that they desire, and kind of seeing that it's not looking like they're going to get that outcome. So the best thing to do is to have the conversation, see what you can do, see where you can pick things up, how you can get the points in the classes. A lot of times they're not sure of how to calculate a grade in the course either. So they can have conversations with the professors about that. They can talk to their advisors about that. They can talk to counselors even about that, so they can figure out where they are in the course and other things they deal with around finals is, holidays start to come up, and, dealing with, am I going to have enough money for the gifts that I want to buy, and, relationships, and sometimes interacting with people that they may not want to interact with around, those holidays. It varies. There's lots of things that are going on for folks. So the best thing to do would be, to reach out and have conversations with people that they trust, around those times.
Yeah, and DuBoi, one of the things you said was, you can't put things off to the last minute and expect to get an A. And I think, especially around the holidays, as people see their mood changing or see their stress levels increasing, I feel like it's kind of the same way. If you feel like you're starting to get stressed, when you're starting, that's the time to reach out for help. That's the time to reach out for support, and not wait until it gets to a point that you feel so bad or so unlike your typical self that it makes it hard to reach out.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that I know that students are hearing about now is our app called WellTrack. And that's something that you can help. You can actually do it self-service, but it's great by itself, but it's even better when you have the support from one of our counselors to help you walk through how best to use it. And one of the features of that is mood tracker. So you can see, because sometimes when you're in it, kind of like a pebble in your shoe, right? You've gotten used to it, you just kind of adapt and work around it. But then when that pebble gets taken out, you're like, oh, I had no idea it was that bad. So using something like a mood tracker can be really helpful. But I totally agree. Just like with your classes, you don't want to wait till things get so bad that then you're feeling desperate. The same thing goes with stress, especially around the holidays, especially as we're still navigating the pandemic.
Great, thank you. And I think DuBoi mentioned it, is that instructors or faculty, they want students to reach out to them, right? It doesn't mean that you're not intelligent, but in fact, you might be able to connect with your professors a little bit sooner rather than later, which is a good thing. And so I think that's really important point that you mentioned there, DuBoi. But also, I think both of you talked about feeling stress and some of that anxiety, especially leading up to finals, and some of the ways in which you might be able to connect. But I think personally, I know sometimes I don't quite understand that I'm stressed or anxious until after the fact, when I feel exhausted, or if I pause to slow down and recognize my own feelings. So with that in mind, what are some signs that might signal to a person that they might be experiencing stress or anxiety? And Cindy, if you want to go ahead and take this one first.
Yeah, I think one of those pieces that you talked about, that feeling of exhausted or tired, but stress, anxiety, depression, those things can look different for different people. But I think, this is where knowing yourself, but also trusting the people around you, if they're saying like, hey, are you okay? You don't seem like yourself. But, clue into that. Don't just dismiss it. I feel like some people are very good at just brushing that off and be like, yeah, I'm fine. Like, no big deal. But knowing yourself and what's different, if you're having trouble concentrating, that can be a really strong sign that you are just not in a state to be able to take things in. But trouble sleeping, appetite changes, too much, too little, not at all. Knowing what's normal for you. And right now, normal has shifted a bit. But, again, having a real strong understanding of this doesn't feel like me. And, being able to recognize that when it's starting to happen, or after the fact, like you're saying, if you're looking forward to a break, and then once that break hits, even if it's just a weekend or a day, once you get into that space and just feel like, oh, wow, like I feel so much different, or if you're dreading things coming up, those are great signs to clue into that, maybe you need to do a little bit more in terms of self-care and reaching out.
Yes, and you described my week last week. So great. DuBoi, do you have anything to add there?
Sure. Yeah, I like that idea about checking your sleep. That's a major one for people. And I think, that's one thing folks don't pay enough attention to is their schedule and how much they're trying to get done in a day, and making sure that sleep is a priority for them. So, and that's one of the things that will just go away, and then sleep becomes shorter, and people are more irritable because they're not getting rest the way they need to be. They're responding to people kind of sharply, and they're losing their sense of humor. Lots of things kind of can show you that your anxieties are kicking up. Headaches is a major part, that will pop into folks and like, why am I getting these headaches? That's a major indicator. And even aches in the body and other places, can be an indicator. So, like Cindy was saying, pay attention to your body, pay attention to your mood and what you're feeling, and pay attention to what people are telling you about yourself, because sometimes the way you see yourself isn't the way you're being interpreted by other people. So, be open to the feedback that you're getting. If people are looking at you a certain way, be open to say that they may be seeing something that you may not see. And it's out of care that they would even communicate that to you. So, and then, look for ways that you can implement changes to help you be in a better place. Yeah.
Thank you. I think that's such great advice. I do know that my family members are usually the first to realize when I'm stressed out, so I'm sure that's definitely the case for our students as well. I'm sure that all of us have probably had experiences with stress or anxiety at some point in our lives. What are some tips or strategies that students can implement in the short term, but also long term as it relates to these stressors? Sort of some of those in the moment strategies to calm down, but also thinking long-term strategies as well. Cindy, would you like to start this one?
Yeah, sure. So, again, kind of thinking about the new normal that we're living in with the pandemic, I think there is things like in the moment, like you're saying, Melanie, but then also that preparation. So, there are some very easy techniques, and one of them is, the old standby of take some deep breaths. And that's really, um, it's so much more impactful than I think people give it credit for. So when you're feeling like your brain can't focus, when you feel like you're just at your end, you need to just literally close your eyes, take some deep breaths, like really cleansing breaths. Deep in through the nose, blow slowly out through the mouth. And sometimes it's helpful to focus on, while you're breathing, what are some things I see in front of me? What are some things I feel around me? And if you can just go through your 5 senses and pick 3 things, I promise that's not a math problem for those of you who struggle with math anxiety, but really just focus like, okay, I see trees, I see water, I see grass, I feel my chair, I feel the floor, I feel my headphones. And what that does is short circuit all of that brain chemistry that's keying up that anxiety and changes your focus. So along with the breathing, you are actually going to notice a marked decrease in your anxiety. So, that's something really concrete and easy to do. But the other reality is sometimes you just need to pivot away from what is causing that stress. You can't always do it. So that's where the breathing techniques help. But if you can pivot away temporarily, because you don't want to completely avoid what you're doing or what you have to do, but taking a quick break to watch a funny video or checking in with someone, like giving a quick phone call. Phones are actually used as phones now. So I think that's a great thing. But then in preparation for, the winter that's coming up, this is where think about like, okay, talking to people really helps. Schedule those check-in times. If you don't use any kind of self-help or therapy, this is a great time genuinely to have a therapist or know, like, what's my plan going into this? If I start to feel, on that 1 to 10, if I start to slide down into that 5 range, who do I call? What can I do to take care of myself? And have those really easy, like up on your wall, so that these are my self-care steps, just like you're going to be taking care of other things in a very clear, planned manner. You want to take care of yourself in that same way.
Yeah, I like those ideas. Those are great things for people to do. Kind of plan your stress reduction. I like the idea of meditation is really about kind of keeping people in the present. And I think one of the major stresses people have is they're concerned about what's coming up in the future, or they're concerned about something that already happened in the past. And that combination of stressing about the past and the future kind of takes people out of the present. So meditation kind of brings you back to the moment right now, and then trying to get you to the moment right now where you knowing the moment right now is okay, and where you are is all right, and you can handle it, and you have support, and you have people around you. So the idea of meditation really kind of brings you into the right here, the right now, and being at peace within your moment. So, I definitely recommend that people look into some meditation techniques, and that's really kind of what Cindy was describing there is about, relaxing and being in your present moment. So meditation is a great way to reduce stress, and it doesn't mean, I think some people hear meditation and they think you're laying on the floor and your eyes are closed and you got candles lit. And I mean, you can do it that way, and that's a great way to do it. I do it that way. But it can be, you're sitting in a chair and you just take some deep breaths and you come to the present moment. That's a meditation in itself, and that kind of takes you away from the past, the present, and, what you may be stressing about. Another thing I think that kind of is really challenging about COVID-19 for people is the inability to kind of separate and be in a different place sometimes when you're trying to get away from, stressful situations or stress-inducing people or the environment itself. So, it's, in a way, I think some people are trying to get away while still being physically present, and meditation can do that, for people to kind of give them a mental break, a mental release. So I definitely recommend that people, kind of look into that a bit. Where you can, plan those stress reducing trips, take a walk, take a walk around the block, enjoy nature, pay attention to what's going on, pay attention to the colors of the leaves and the change in the season and how your body feels. Some of those really basic things can kind of bring you into a calm kind of place. And then know who helps you to relax, and connect with those people, know who brings you anxiety as well, and give them some elbow room. So, and there's nothing wrong with that. I think some people kind of feel guilty, like they have to allow folks into their space and have to take a phone call. If that person is calling you with some drama, let it ring. You have to make a change in order to get a new outcome. So I think for some people, that's a basic thing to do. May be difficult because they've been that person that, people rely on me. Look at what you need for yourself and be able to make those changes when those times are necessary. And I think some folks kind of get overwhelmed that way. So I think that's a way to, in the short term, to make changes. Long term, I think people can look at how they plan their schedules, look at how they plan their lives, what their goals are, and how they balance their time toward reaching those goals and outcomes, and then be very strategic in who they align, their time to be with, and how they align their professional development to get their education, and so on and so forth. And I think that, when people feel like they're on track to get where they want to be, there tends to be a lot more hope, a lot more joy, a lot more excitement about the future. And I think, that relieves a lot of that stress. So long term, I think that some of that planning and networking and connection around the desired outcomes can help people kind of feel better.
Awesome. Yeah, these are all great. And I think both of you sort of touched on this, is that it's not a one and done approach. I think sometimes I even have the idea of like, yes, if I just light all these candles, I meditate, I am good to go. But that's not how it works. And I think the important part is to remember is that these strategies aren't going to make it go away completely. Like, we're all going to experience some stress, but I think it's important to incorporate these strategies both in the short and the long term to help alleviate some of that stress, and so we're not into that full panic mode, and we can manage and cope a little bit better. So those were wonderful strategies. And so lastly, I just want to ask the two of you, as I mentioned before, I think the important part to remember is that no one has to do this whole life thing alone, right? Can either of you briefly chat about who students can or should contact if they are feeling overwhelmed, frozen, or just feel like hiding under the covers because they're too stressed?
Yeah. Oh, go ahead, DuBoi.
Definitely reach out to your teachers, as we mentioned before. Make that connection with your instructors. Don't hesitate to make that connect, particularly when you're talking about your classes. Of course, your advisors are available there for you to help you guide your academic planning. So please reach out to your advisors. You know, you have your assigned advisors, know who they are, maintain your connections with those folks. And the counseling center, of course, is there for you when you're talking about those educational concerns. And there are resources that are available as well, campus-wide. And, you know, I think Cindy can talk a little bit about some of that too.
Yeah, and you took the words out of my mouth, DuBois. You know, I think students staying connected with people in their network, but, you know, counseling services truly 24/7. You know, students can call 847-925-6393 to set up an appointment with a counselor. After hours, when you call that number, we have crisis counselors available if it's after hours for counseling that students can connect to in the immediate. The other thing that I want to mention, and as we were talking about all those great meditation and mindfulness techniques, on our counseling web pages, we have a robust list of self-service, like you don't need to make an appointment, you don't need to go anywhere, you can pull it up on your phone and listen. Not only do we have a workshop about mindfulness, but we have things like navigating relationships, managing your stress. You know, I think there's a lot of students who can take advantage of those things right in the moment on your own time frame. And just like other resources, that's something that can be a nice way to kind of get a little bit of help, but then you can always connect with one of our counselors as well. So yeah, you know, there's no wrong door. You can always reach out for help. And if you're not sure about counseling, you know, you can talk with your advisor about what those services are. They are fantastic resources and always, always, always connected to those of us at counseling and are happy to help bridge that gap. But, you know, questions are always welcome.
Thank you so much, Cindy and DuBois, for this wonderful information and insight. I just want to end this session by wishing students the best of luck on their finals. And no matter what, remember that your worth as a person is not dependent on your grades.